Hey, what's up, guys? It's Elmer Brown Enriquez, your host of Artistic Visions, the show where we like to go in depth with young artists in Toronto and talk about their art, what they like to talk about in their art, and what they would like to talk about in their art. Today's episode, I got a very special guest, Zero. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. And before we start off, who are you and what kind of art do you usually make?
I'm Zero. I'm 23 years old. Just turned 23 a few days ago.
Woo.
And I make all kinds of stuff. I feel like I don't have like one medium at all. I do like a lot of digital stuff, but then I also do a lot of physical things, and I like to sculpt and paint and draw, but then I like to do like what I did for my thesis, like digital things like that, video work and stuff like that. So I feel like I don't have like one thing. I just have like a bunch of things that I do.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's what really drew me to at least, having this interview with you is because I've seen so many mediums that you've, literally just touched for maybe a second and you excel and do what you want to do with it. And like, I've always seen it like come out like with a product that you had the vision for.
I think I just have an idea, and then I don't really care what the idea is in terms of like medium. I'll just do it because I think it's fun. So like if something comes to me and I think it's like a video idea, then I'll do it, or like a collage or like a zine or something, like I'll just go for it.
The main thing I wanted to talk about today was this thesis piece that you showed off last year when graduating at TMU. Mm-hmm. I'll let you kind of introduce it. What are we seeing in this amazing piece?
Well, I've had OCD my entire life, and it's something that's affected me since I was a child. And I think when I was around 20, I went into like a really, really bad place with it, where it just completely ruined my life for like a whole 2 years. And I even had to like drop out of school and stuff. It was really bad. I remember going through it, and I remember it being extremely bad. Like I couldn't even leave my house, but I do remember thinking like, I'm gonna get out of this, and I'm gonna make something of it at some point. Like I knew something was gonna come of it, which is a really weird thing to be thinking about. Like while you're like deeply struggling, it's kind of like, oh well, at least I'll be able to like make something after, which I think is funny. But that's partially what I was thinking while I was still deeply, deeply struggling. And then I was thinking about doing this project. I was thinking about pursuing it, and I was about a year recovered from like everything I'd gone through, but I still remember thinking that it was too sensitive and that I wouldn't be able to cope, because like making this project like really took me back to like when times were extremely bad, and like I knew that I wasn't ready for that at that point, so I did something else. I accomplished that, and then when I had the chance for thesis, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And I actually had like a little notes app sketch of like what I wanted it to look like, and
Gotta start somewhere, at least.
Yeah, like I never thought I'd be able to pull it off, because it was like, this is one of my biggest projects that I've ever done, but then I did, and I was so proud of myself.
Yeah, no, I am, we've talked about, me and Zero have become really good friends outside, and I've geeked out about this piece like so many times to them. So it's only fair I geek out it one more time, at least for the record. This piece is one of the crazier ones, because holy shit, there's so many aspects of this that you bring your own, creation to. So there's one, we start off obviously with the visuals. So, who'd have thought, film studies doing visuals, right? But then you also have straight up installation, and then you have sounds, and then you're also working with InDesign, which is really cool, and the way you managed to have the button flip through both sides of what you were dealing with at that time, and have people even just really thrown into that world of like more of the painful parts of OCD, and that you had literally were forced to deal with, and you're giving this perspective to new audience members and showing them like, yeah, it's like this, like this is how it is.
Yeah, that was my whole thing, is that I wanted people to understand like what OCD is actually, because like I feel like the way that we see it represented in media is all about like cleanliness, and organization, and that couldn't be further from the truth of having OCD. It's actually really messy and disgusting and awful, and it's this thing that's just a monster that's just hounding you all day, and it just fucking sucks. And it looks gruesome and it feels gruesome, but the way that it's presented is like, oh, it's just someone who likes to keep organized. And that's actually one thing that I wanted to talk about a lot with the piece, is that like so many people don't even know that they have this illness, and it's because of how it's represented. And like that's really scary to think about, and I didn't know, because the way that it was represented is like, oh, it's this person that just likes to keep clean. It's actually about, like, OCD takes your worst fears and it tries to make you the like perpetrator of those fears. And that's really freaky. I needed people to know that like that's what OCD is, because I like would not wish my struggle on like my worst enemy. Like I never want anyone to go through what I went through. Like, it was awful.
On top of the meanings, obviously talking about OCD, you also accompany these with sounds, which I want to touch on, because I totally thought that these were doctored sounds from films, but turns out you actually made them yourself. And you want to talk further on that as well, or?
Yeah, I can talk about like how it functions and like what it means.
Yeah, for sure.
There are horror movie visuals and audio, and then there's nature visuals and audio, and the piece flips between the two using a button. So the horror movie visuals are really gruesome and really bloody, and the audio is really, really scary. And as soon as you push the button, it switches to these nature visuals and audio that I created. The visuals only change as long as you hold down the button, and that's supposed to represent the cycle of OCD. So the intrusive thought versus the compulsion and the temporary relief that you get, and then the intrusive thought again comes back just all the more jarring because of the short temporary relief that you got. And the reason I did the button thing is because I would always say to people, like, you can't hold on forever. There is a point where you need to break the cycle. And for like me and for OCD, like breaking the cycle means like exposure therapy, which is actually just like facing your fears. So that's why I said like you can't hold on forever. That's why I did the button is only like you can only hold it down for so long before you have to let go and, go deal with your life, and you can't just like stay at this installation forever. So the visuals, I used these like horror movie visuals because for me and my OCD, not to like freak anybody out, but mine was like the subtype of OCD called harm OCD. So it gave me these like terrifying intrusive thoughts of like harming people, and I would be like, I don't want to do those things, and then I like locked myself in my room, and I couldn't leave my house for like a whole 2 years, and I couldn't even leave my room. And OCD is crazy. Like, do some research and you'll see what I mean, but it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I used those visuals, those horror movie visuals, to represent my own intrusive thoughts, and then I contrasted them with the nature visuals because I remember when I was really deeply struggling and I couldn't even leave my house, like, I remember thinking those things about nature and wanting to be back in nature, and that's why I contrasted them with nature, because one of the first exposures that I did for exposure therapy was just leaving my house for 5 minutes, which was terrifying, but I did it. The audio of the horror movie visuals is me like crying and doing some of my old verbal compulsions. I like went into a room with like a microphone and sat there, and I just threw myself back into what it felt like having OCD. And in the audio you can hear me counting, because counting was one thing that I did all the time to try and stop the intrusive thoughts, but I would be counting up until like the thousands. You can hear praying as well. Praying was one that I had as well, where I've actually had that one since I was a kid, where I would just pray compulsively every time I got an intrusive thought or something. You can hear me saying the words like no and stop a lot,
Yes.
because those were like audible compulsions that I had. Like, I'd be like, when I was like forced to leave the house if I could or something, or before it got so bad, like even when I was in public, I would be like shaking my head a lot or like hitting myself and just saying no and stop, like audibly out loud, because these are compulsions. Like you can't not do them. If you don't do them, you don't get any temporary relief. So I definitely looked a little crazy in public a few times. I do want to talk about one more aspect of the audio is you can hear like a high-pitched ringing through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I made that on GarageBand. I actually took like the inspiration from horror movies, and I had some like ambient noises going on in there because like you can hear that a lot in horror movies, these jittery strings and that scary stuff, and I love the idea of it being like scary, like a horror movie. So I had that ringing the whole time, and also a reason that I had a ringing the whole time was because I wanted the audio to be annoying. I wanted people to come and want to change it and interact with it because they'd be like, oh my God, shut up. And that's kind of how it felt. Like at some point during having OCD, I was angry about it. I was like, shut up. Like I'm trying to live my life. And it's like this ringing, this thing going on that's just not shutting up. And it's annoying.
Before we close off on this piece and continue with the rest, I want to talk about the physical aspect.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of boxes and a lot of monitors. So you want to talk about that
I
aspect?
would love
real
to.
quick?
Yeah. The boxes, actually, shout out Dennis. He made them. That's my friend, Josh's dad. Dennis. Shout out Dennis. The physical aspect of the piece is like these boxes, and then it's also a bunch of like loose wires stuck onto all the boxes, like decorating them. And then I have a bunch of these things on the piece as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely amazing piece. I'm so happy that we got to film stuff and I got to see it in person. But I don't even know like what else I can say other than like I just absolutely love how much of your world is shown to the audience, and you put everyone in that world so well. And straight from that audio to visuals, the actual installation itself, and then you have just even decorative like things where it's like, well, this helped me, learning about what I had and learning about, OCD really, put this into perspective.
It was a really, it's like my most thought out thing that I've ever done. And it is definitely one of my longest projects. Like I had never used Touch Designer before, besides like a few times, but I feel like those didn't really count. And then when I was trying to figure out what I was doing, like I remember I was telling you this, like, my profs were like, how are you going to do that? And I was just like, I have no idea. But I would like lie and be like, I have it like figured out. Don't worry about it.
It's ready tomorrow.
I was like, it's ready.
Wow. Amazing piece. I absolutely love it. This. I absolutely killer. If I'm really hoping that this gets shown somewhere, because this deserves to be shown somewhere and people need to see it. And I really hope that could be a thing soon. Yeah, I would like to ask my next question, however, if you had the chance, what kind of messages would you like to try and tackle on in future pieces?
Definitely really like talking about mental health, because I feel like to me it's so important, but I feel like mental health in a very real sense, because sometimes I feel like when we view art that is about mental health, it's very trivial. And it's very, very censored. But I feel like I want to do more stuff like this. Like if someone came to me with their like mental illness and it was terrible and awful and was like, how can we represent this and how can we show how this functions? Like I would love to do something like this again, because for me, like this is my personal experience, and this is definitely such a good representation of what was going on in my mind, and that's why it's called Minute in My Mind. But I would love to do this with somebody. I would love for somebody to come to me and be like, I have this mental illness and this is how it functions, and tells me all about it. And me and that person work together to create a piece that, surface level just like looks cool. And then like on a deeper level, just like puts people in how it feels. Cause like, I remember when I presented this, I had people come up to me and apologize and be like, I'm so sorry that you deal with that. And while I was like super thankful that they were being sympathetic, I was also thinking like, yes, like I pulled it off. Like I did what I needed to do. Like I'm glad someone saw that and was like, shit, that must suck.
Yeah, no, those are really good points to bring up. Like, you know, it's something that people don't really realize that they know, like, until maybe even seeing your piece, and they just open their eyes to like what's potentially there for them, and it's scary, but like like you said, like as long as you maybe know, you can treat it, or you know, just start researching on it and start learning about it, and go from there.
Because like once you're in that cycle, it's incredibly hard to break.
Yeah, it's scary. It's a scary cycle. Zero, who or what inspired you during, or just in your general art making?
Behind this piece and behind like the video work that I do and stuff like that, definitely Namjoon Pak. He was a huge inspiration for me. I found out about his work when I was like in third year, and I was just obsessed ever since. And then seeing his piece Video Flag, like when I saw Video Flag, I was like, oh my God, like that's the stuff I want to make. Like that is it. Like that is so cool. And I remember seeing that and being like, how do I do something like that? And like since third year, I've been brainstorming this project, and then that's when I came up with this. And yeah, so he was my inspiration behind this piece, like physically on how it looked. I remember trying to research how he connected things together, but like I could not even understand it.
Yeah,
and I got to see his piece or his stuff in the MoMA when I went to New York, and I was like, oh my God. So like him for sure, and I wanted to touch on that because I love him so much. Just as a general inspiration, two of my favorite artists are Gerard Way and Billy Corgan, both lead singers, both frontmen. And yeah, I feel like they both inspire me so much, especially because they have like, I feel like they're like perfectionist visions, and the way that they are, and like the way they direct things and like make things and just go for it and work in many mediums and stuff. And those are my three guys.
Those are
Gerard
the
Way, Billy Corgan, Namjoon Pak.
Just a couple of dudes doing art.
Just three dudes.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. Namjoon Pike is a really good artist, and I like totally now you say that, I'm like, oh dude, I just totally see the inspiration. Right. But that it's really cool because I could like that's what I'm saying. I could see this being played just like a lot of his art. This could be in the MoMA right now. Sadly, Zero, we will have to end off this interview, sadly. But before we end it off, is there anything you'd like to promote, put out there, or tell the world about?
Follow my Instagram. Crank that.
Yeah.
CR4NKTH4T. Crank that. Like the Soulja Boy song. And then look out for my next flyer and come to it.
Somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somewhere around OCAD. Have you seen those flyers?
You'll see flyers hosted by Crank That. Come next time.
Yeah, you missed out, guys.
It's fun.
You're missing out. Again, Zero, thank you so much for your time and for the interview. I really appreciate it. And showing me this amazing art.
I'm so glad you got to see it.
I'm really glad I got to see it.
I'm so glad because like I forgot about it, and then we plugged it all in, and I was like, oh. So I'm so happy you got to see it.
I'm really happy you showed me it. So thank you again, once again.
Thank you.
Don't even mention it. And I'll see you guys another time on Artistic Visions very, very soon. Take it easy, and hope you guys have a great weekend, or end of the day. Bye.
Bye.